I was born the 15th of December 1990, meaning that I'm currently 28 years old and almost 29. When I was a child, I broke one of my legs, and during recovery I ended up with a spider nest within this leg. A spider came, thought that the cast was a great place to nest because it was warm, humid, and so yeah, I ended up with spiders in my leg. Also, when I was a child, I had a stuffed toy called Hedgehog because it's a hedgehog. And one day when we went traveling to Mexico City with my parents, I forgot Hedgehog in the hotel room when we went to another city. While in the car, I was so panicking that my parents called the hotel back and went back to Mexico City in order to get Hedgehog. And when we arrived, the staff had him cleaned. And my first reaction when I saw him was that it was not my plushie, it was not my hedgehog, because the colors didn't match. Okay, so you all probably know the game of 2 truths, 1 lie, and we just played it. I lied to you in something that I said at the beginning of this video, and I want you to think about what you believe is the lie. And then come back by the end of the video and tell me in the comments if your original thought is the same or is different from the final one. But for now, let me tell you how to spot a liar, because I believe you deserve to live your life at its full potential. To most people, looking straight in the eyes while talking to someone is proof of honesty, of truth. Liars are like you and I, they know this and they will play with it. The basic liars, the ones who don't really think about their lies, will first unconsciously look at you straight in the eye for most of the time they will talk to you. The first reason, as I told you, to look trustworthy. But the second reason is to be able to analyze yourself, your emotions, your reactions, and make sure that you do trust what they are saying. But the thing is, nobody will ever look at someone straight in the eyes during an entire conversation. We will have some eyes escape because it feels awkward. Those eye changes are the norm. But the basic liar doesn't think about that and will just look at you straight in the eyes for way too long. The second point to look at when the liar is a little more experienced is where he's looking at. In neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, that I will talk a bit more about in a future video, it has been discovered that the way our look goes reflects on what is happening in our brain. If you're looking at top left, it's memory, top right, creativity. Then the sound is on a straight line, so left, auditory remembrance, right, auditory creation. And finally, the bottom doesn't have anything to do with lies. Here it's the internal speech, and there the kinesthetics. In this, when you are talking to someone, look at where they are looking while telling you this story. If they are not only looking at you straight in the eyes, if they go there, that means they are trying to remember something. There, they are trying to create it. The third point is detachment. When someone is lying, they tend to detach themselves from the facts, from the subject. One of the most famous cases was the Clinton versus Lewinsky case, in which Bill Clinton never actually said that he didn't have sex with Monica Lewinsky. Instead, he said that he did not have sexual relationship with that woman. That woman is a way to detach himself, to create a distance between him and the subject. Another point is repetition. Repetition of the questions that has been asked. And you can see that quite a lot in politics. They have to create their arguments, they have to build their defense. Hence why they repeat the questions that are asked. However, the repetition point needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, because for some people it is part of their normal behavior. For others, it is a way to put emphasis into the answer that they will provide. Also to be taken with a massive pinch of salt, people who give way too many indications, way too many details. When we create a lie, in order to make it trustworthy. We tend to give a plethora of details because we want people to believe it, and the more details you will give, the more trustworthy it will seem. But this also needs to be taken with a huge pinch of salt, because the person might just be chatty, talkative. Next, we have a coherence both within the version and with the individual. Obviously, incoherences within a version are proof of lie. If someone is telling you something that just doesn't match up, a person who couldn't be there at that peculiar time and place. But also incoherence with the individual. If you know the person you're suspecting of lying, look at the way they normally behave and the way they tell you they behaved. Then you have the overuse of sentences in order to make you believe it's the truth. I swear to you, I swear to God, you won't believe me, but you have to believe me. Those sentences have no point to be used, but if you're unsure, the person in front of yourself will believe you. Usually, we tend to use those sentences if we talk to someone who's skeptical or if it's something that is absolutely extraordinary. Liars tend to overuse those sentences, even for things for which normally everyone would believe them for. So if someone is using one of those sentences in a situation where it has absolutely no place because it's a common situation, and if you're sure that this person is not overly stressed, then you know that it's most probably a lie. A final verbal technique to spot a liar is to ask the person to tell you the story in reverse mode. Most of the time when someone is lying to yourself, they will not make a full-on lie. They will lie on a few details in order to put emphasis on their story, to make it more interesting. If you're unsure about something, ask questions backwards. When the story is done, ask the person to tell you facts that happened at one specific point and what happened just before this point. Add a few details in what they told you, and if they validate what you said, you're pretty sure that they are lying. So now we're done with the verbal part. Let's look at the kinesthetics, at the body gestures. The first ones, and the most important ones, are the emblems. Emblems are non-verbal cues that have verbal counterparts. They are gestures, movements that even without speaking, people will understand. They might differ depending on the culture, so you really need to know the culture to be able to analyze them. But even unconsciously, you already know all the ones of your own culture. In European culture, for example, this is yes, this is no, and this is I don't care. Those movements are movements that have a purpose. They are not naturally done outside of their own purpose. You will not walk in the street like that. And the only time you will use those emblems are either to answer to someone, to put emphasis on something that you just said, or misplaced and to give yourself up while trying to lie. The misplaced emblems happen only in about 20% of the cases. However, when they do happen, they are 100% proof that the person is lying. Some examples would be when someone is telling you that yes, they really loved this movie, or that they found something absolutely amazing. If you see something like that, you know the person is lying. Then you have the illustrating movements. So those movements are the movements that need to have verbal cues in order to be understood. I use a lot of those movements in order to put emphasis on everything that I'm telling you. If I were to do those movements without sound, you wouldn't understand anything. For this, you need to know the person at least a little bit. You need to know if they are using a lot of those movements or not. When we're lying, we have to create a story. So picture it this way. Think that in your brain you have one guy. Let's call him Bob. Bob can only do a few things at a time. And when Bob is turning himself in order to create the story, he cannot look at the same time at the kinestetics. In this, when someone is making up a story, you will see a drastic change, a drastic reduction in their illustrating movements. Once again, this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. Bob can turn himself while making the story, but he can also turn himself just because he's trying to remember something really far away, or because he's trying to focus on a topic that is so important and so precise that it's impossible for himself to put emphasis on the things that are said. And last but not least, the manipulation gestures. The manipulation gestures are gestures where you actually manipulate another part of your body. The hair, ears, sometimes the chin or the nose. When people use a lot of those gestures, it's most probably because they are highly stressed. Stress that could be implied because they are scared that you will spot their lies. But once again, this one has to be combined with other points and also with an accurate study of the situation. Because manipulation gestures happen in two opposite situations. The first one is when your stress level is high, but the second one is when you feel good, when you're happy. If you're having a great night with a girl or a guy that is so in front of yourself, the girl will tend to use those kinds of gestures with her hair. A guy with his neck. Those are gestures that proves that they feel good, not that they are lying to you. Okay, so now we're done. You know all the techniques to spot a liar, but you might ask myself, how to train? There's nothing easier than that. Most of you should have at least one friend or a family member. Ask them to come and play a game of two truths, one lie. This game is one of the best games to study how people work. Start by asking benchmark questions, their age, where they are born, things that you know they will not lie to, and so that you will be able to analyze the way they behave normally when they are saying the truth. And then play the game again and again until you're able to read them perfectly. The great thing with this game is that you can train with only one person and it works perfectly because we all work the same way. So when you'll be able to read this person perfectly this way, you will be able to do it with pretty much everyone. And thanks to that, you will be able to spot when anyone will try to lie to you. Because I believe you deserve to live your life at its full potential. And this is the end of how to spot a liar. I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to put a thumbs up, share the video, subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to tell me in the comments below your thoughts on where I lied to you at the beginning of the video. And no matter what happens, I will see you in my next video. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to smile and live your life at its full potential.